All right, let's jump right in. So you're building that dream sauna, you've got it all planned out, but there's that one last hurdle, the electrical inspection. Today, we're going to demystify the entire setup for a 9 kilowatt heater. We're going to give you the exact code compliance specs you need to get that green sticker on your very first try. No callbacks, no delays.
Oh man, if you've ever been through it, you know this feeling. Seeing that red tag slapped on your hard work, it's just deflating. It's not just a piece of paper, right? It means your time's been wasted, you're paying more money for a reinspection, and worst of all, your sauna dream is on hold. It's a total buzzkill, and we're going to make sure it doesn't happen to you.
And that's the big question, isn't it? The answer isn't about crossing your fingers and hoping you get a nice inspector. It's about having a rock-solid, code-ready plan before you even run a single wire. And in this explainer, we are laying out that exact roadmap for you.
So, let's not waste any time. We're cutting right to the chase. This is the solution, the core info you need. Think of this as your golden ticket to a past inspection. Getting this part right from the get-go saves you pretty much every possible headache down the line. Okay, you ready? Here it is, the permit-proof spec. First up, you need a 50-amp 2-pole breaker, no less. Second, your wire. You've got two main options here. If you're running it in a conduit, you'll use number 8-gauge copper THHN wire. If you're running it as a cable inside the wall, you'll need a thicker number 6-gauge copper NMB cable. Third, the disconnect switch. This is for safety, and it has to be within sight of the heater. Or, the alternative is a lockable breaker right at the main panel. And finally, GFCI. And listen up, because this one trips people up. The code actually says you have to follow the manufacturer's instructions to the letter. Don't guess, just do what the manual says.
So now you have the what, but let's talk about the why, because it's actually really important. These aren't just some random numbers we pulled out of a hat. It's all based on the National Electrical Code, and specifically, how the code thinks about things that run for a long time. Understanding the logic here is everything.
And that key concept is called a continuous load. You see, a sauna heater isn't like your living room lamp that you flick on and off. This thing is going to be running at full blast for hours at a time. Because of that, the electrical code demands a safety buffer, a 125% safety buffer to be exact, just to make sure nothing overheats and everything stays safe.
Okay, so let's do the math. It's pretty simple. Your 9,000-watt heater on a standard 240-volt circuit pulls about 37.5 amps. Now you take that number and you multiply it by that 125% safety factor. What do you get? You get 46.9 amps. Now that's not what the heater uses. It's the minimum size the circuit has to be built to handle safely.
Now here's where people get into trouble. You can't walk into a hardware store and ask for a 46.9 amp breaker, right? They don't exist. The National Electrical Code has a list of standard breaker sizes, and the rule is crystal clear. You have to round up to the next available size. In this case, that's 50 amps. This is exactly why a 40 amp breaker, which might seem close enough, will get you that red tag every single time.
Okay, so that 50 amp requirement now tells us what kind of wire we need. And how you install that wire makes all the difference. If you're running individual wires inside a metal tube or conduit, you can use a number 8-gauge wire. But if you're using that common all-in-one cable, you probably know it as Romex. Well, that plastic sheathing around the wires traps heat. It's like it's wearing a jacket. So the code says you have to use a thicker number 6-gauge wire to handle that same 50 amp load safely.
All right, so you've got the breaker picked out, you know which wire to use, you're feeling pretty good. But hang on. There are still a few real-world traps, these little landmines that can catch even the pros off guard. And these are the kinds of mistakes that can turn your dream project into a really expensive headache. And this might be the biggest one of all. While most single-family homes in the US have 240-volt service, a lot of commercial buildings, or even big apartment complexes, use a 208-volt system. And installing a heater that's built for 240 volts onto a 208-volt line, well, that's a recipe for a very disappointing sauna. And this chart just shows you why so clearly. We're not talking about a small difference here. A 240-volt heater hooked up to 208-volt service will literally lose 25% of its power. That means you get a sauna that takes forever to heat up, never quite gets hot enough, all because of a simple mismatch that could have been caught with a $20 tool. Let me tell you a quick, true story. An installer is putting the finishing touches on this beautiful commercial sauna. It's a Tuesday, and the grand opening is on Friday. Everything looks perfect, and then he discovers it.
The brand new 240-volt heater is wired to the building's 208-volt service. The clock is ticking. You can just feel the panic start to set in.
But here's what happened. Instead of panicking, he pulled out his multimeter, did a quick voltage check, and confirmed the problem. A single phone call was made, and by that afternoon, the correct 208-volt heater was already on a truck set for next-day delivery.
So, the new heater arrived, they quickly updated the permit paperwork, and the inspector came out on Thursday and passed it with flying colors. The sauna was hot and ready for the grand opening on Friday. A total crisis was averted, all because they identified the problem and acted decisively.
So let's bring this all home. Let's pull everything we've talked about into one final, super simple, actionable checklist. This is your game plan for making sure your project goes just as smoothly as that one did.
Okay, here are your 5 keys to success. 1. Use that golden ticket spec we laid out. 50-amp breaker, correct wire for your installation method. 2. When you submit your plans, actually write the code sections down. It tells the inspector you've done your homework. 3. This is non-negotiable. Verify your voltage with a meter before you even order the heater. 4. Document everything. Snap a photo of the heater's nameplate, the circuit breaker panel. And 5. Don't guess about the GFCI rules. Just photocopy the page from the manual and staple it right to your permit application. Make it easy for them to say yes.
You know, this really just says it all. Taking that little bit of extra time to get the specs crystal clear on paper before you start is the absolute best insurance against expensive rework and stressful delays. That investment of time will pay for itself 100 times over, I promise. Because look, at the end of the day, this is about so much more than just passing an inspection. It's about creating a safe, relaxing space for you, your family, or your clients. Following these guidelines makes sure your sauna isn't just a place for wellness, but it's also a testament to quality work. So the only question left is, are you ready to build it right the first time?